Hello everyone, welcome to Devops Info channel. Today we are going to have a look at the topic getting started with Azure Pipelines. This topic will have a series of video to get complete understanding on the pipelines. With Azure Pipelines, you can create an automated release using continuous integration and create your application. Today we are going to focus on two topics. The first one is the overview of the pipelines and second one is creating one sample application on your local system. You can utilize the cloud service Microsoft Azure Pipelines to automatically develop, test, and deploy your code project. It works almost with any language or project type, and you can easily make it available to others. By using Azure Pipelines, we can bring many benefits. The best part of the Azure Pipelines is it works with many different languages and application types. And just in case, if you want to expand in those directions, we don't need to do any reconfiguration. So today in this video, we are going to take an example of a web application which is developed in-house currently. So this is the example of the current state, what I'm showing you in the presentation. Current state, the many team is being pulled in many directions. And for example, there will be an SME who will be uh, dealing and leading the team. He can be on back-to-back meetings and can lose track of his priorities. A developer can also be on multiple tasks, helping the multiple teams. The operation team, who is responsible for maintaining the build server, he'll be heavily working and fully dependent on maintaining the underlying system from patches and protecting them from the vulnerabilities. If we take a look at the example diagram, we could see that there are multiple scripts in the repository created by the different developers. They do not have an idea of what have been updated in the existing scripts and have some challenge in making a note of the changes that have been made. Because this is the reason it's been in this model for quite a long time, and there are people who are joining and leaving the organization. So that's the reason it could be a challenge for them. And for example, for SMEs, there are multiple processes in place defined, which keeps them challenging at times to keep moving the task further. A testing team is also not being notified if a new build release is done, and if, for example, if any changes is being done on the existing application or a script. So at times they need to chase the development team for checking if there were any recent deployment that is being made. The operation team is also having a big time challenge in the updates, patch management, and the vulnerability management of the build server because it's not the only job. They also have a couple of other tasks to maintain the infrastructure. So in the current state, we see there are multiple challenges in the operation team, the testing team, the development team, and also with the SMEs. So now we are going to have a look at how the Azure Pipelines is going to help us in this scenario. The first thing for the SMEs, we see the tasks are not organized and they get multiple processes defined. To prioritize the tasks, you can always use the Azure boards to create a backlog of the issues with the build processes. Keep in mind that we might be using few topics that we have already discussed in the previous videos, for example, the Azure boards, because interconnecting them will definitely help us in understanding how to utilize the Azure DevOps flow in your project. And let's talk the issue with the operations team. The operations team says that the build server has problems and even keeping it up to date is really hard because it's not just one build server, they have multiple build servers, multiple flavors. To overcome the situation, you can little bit reduce or even completely reduce the burden on the operation team by using the Microsoft hosted agents. So when you use the Azure pipelines, they provide a build service which is completely hosted and maintained by the Microsoft, which means like it always has the latest patches and the security updates coming from the Microsoft, And we really no need to worry about maintaining the build server because maintaining them is completely taken care by the Microsoft itself. And let's talk about the developer. The current situation with the developer is like it's really difficult for them to keep a track of the new and the updated scripts in the shared repository. Though it is a in-house shared repository, but they are unable to keep a track of the changes because of the multiple people doing it, and then people coming and leaving the organization. So it has all kind of scripts written by different people, and they really don't even understand how some of them work. So in this case, like you can use the Azure pipelines because Azure pipelines comes with a catalog of tasks. So when you create a task, it is a package script or a procedure that has been abstracted with a set of inputs. So if we start mapping the existing script to those tasks, it will help us standardize how things get done and increase the level of the automation. So by this way, mapping the existing script to the tasks in Azure pipelines, it will really help in overcoming this chaotic situation with the development team. And while coming to talk about the QA team, the tester is always not notified when a build or an update is completed. We can set up the pipeline to notify automatically either through email or to some other notification when the build is ready. So in this case, the tester will never have to wait for someone to remind him or her again. This will help him or her to start testing his QA check immediately when they get the notification via email or some other way. So the continuous integration is a process will happen through the pipeline. If you take a look at the image which I have created, a pipeline is made of multiple steps which are called tasks. A task it can be a script which triggers all this flow. The pipeline runs when you submit the code changes. So for example, when you submit your code change, it's a YAML file or any type of code. You can configure the pipeline to run automatically or you can run it manually. So, and then you connect the pipeline to a source repository like GitHub, Bitbucket, or any other options. Even for instance, you can use Team Foundation version control. But in our case, in this video series, we are going to have a look at the GitHub only. You can think of a script. The pipeline is like a script which defines how your build, test, and deployment tests are completely run. So it is made up of a series of tasks. A build agent is the one which builds or deploys the code. So when your build agent is build started doing the deployment, the system will start doing one or a series of tasks. It can also run the parallel set of tasks. That's also possible in the pipeline. So when you start doing the build, then it comes the agent. So agent is basically an installable software that runs on one job at a time. So when you use the Azure pipelines, there is possible that you can use the Microsoft hosted agents. So the Microsoft hosted agents, as we discussed in the past, the maintenance and upgrades are completely taken care by Microsoft itself. So each time when we run a pipeline, we'll get a fresh virtual machine. There is also options to choose the VM images and the OS flavors, for example, Ubuntu, Windows, or Mac. And just in case if you want to use your own VM, so there is an option called self-hosted agent. So hence self-hosted agent is agent that you set up and manage on your own in your build and deployment jobs. So in this case, it's going to be your own VM. So the self-hosted agents give you more control and let you install any software you need for your build and deployments. But the major negative part is you need to take care of maintaining it from the updates and also from the security vulnerabilities as well. And the final product that we are going to see is the artifact. So that is going to be the final product of your pipeline. So this is the series of the tasks. From the left, if you have a look at the pipeline, the first one is going to be the code, the build, the test, verification, and it's going to be the artifact is the product of your pipeline. So this is it can be a package based on the product that you're developing. It can be a package, a .NET app, or a Java app, which is in a jar or a zip file, or it can be a C++ or a JavaScript library. or even it can be a virtual machine, a cloud, or a Docker image. So this is the summary of the pipelines that we talk about. So if you want to see where is the pipeline in your Azure DevOps, you can always go into the DevOps and then click on pipelines over the left. You can click on the new pipelines, and the moment when you click on the new pipelines, it will give you some suggestion. First, it will ask you where is your code. It's in the Azure repository Git, or it's in the Bitbucket, or in the GitHub. So even there is an option to choose the other pipeline, other Git, whatever you see in the options, and then you need to do the configuration based on where is your Git, and then you can start creating your pipeline. So this one we are going to have a look in the upcoming videos. So now, having talked about the summary, let's jump into a demo on to see how to create a sample application on our local machine. So the first step is to build and run a web app on our local machine. Understand this will really help us to understand how to build a software locally, and later how to repeat the same process in the pipeline by moving this from your GitHub repository into the pipeline. So having talked about the overview, now let's jump into a demo on how to create a sample application on our local machine. The first step is to build and run a web app on your local machine. Understanding how to build the software locally will prepare you to repeat the process in the Azure pipeline. In this case, you can use any kind of editor, but in our example, I'm just showing the Visual Studio Code that comes with an integrated terminal. So you can edit the files and work from the command line in one place. So the first thing what you need to do is you have to prepare the Visual Studio Code. So preparing the Visual Studio Code consists of two main important points. The first one is you need to make sure that you have logged in into your GitHub account, which I have logged in already. And the second one is like you need to cache the credentials locally. So the first time if you're logging into the GitHub on the Windows, you'll be prompted to cache the credentials locally. You have to accept it. And just in case if it is going to be for Linux and Mac OS, the process is a little bit different. I'm going to paste the link of the demo what I'm following in this video, so that you can just follow if you are trying this on the Linux or in the Mac OS. So now what you need to do is you also need to make sure that you're choosing the right folder where you're going to uh, create a fork and clone the copy from the GitHub repository. So in order to do that, you have to go to the terminal and then click on the new terminal. So in our example, we are just going to use always the bash. So I'm just clicking on the drop down and clicking on the bash. So what you need to do is you need to just run on cd space to make sure that you're out of any directory just in case we are present. In our example, I'm just going to choose a location called scripts, which I have over here. I'm just copying it and then running enter. So it has took me to this particular location. So now what we have done is we have chosen the correct folder where you have to configure and copy the repository from the Git. So now what you need to do is you have to create a fork. In order to create a fork is nothing but it's a copy of the GitHub repository locally on your machine. A copy exists in your account and lets you make any changes you want without affecting the original project. So now what we are going to do is we are going to fork one of the demo, which is a space game web project, which is available in the GitHub account. So the demo what we are going to see is like this is the space game web project. So we'll be cloning this to our local laptop. So what you need to do is yeah, you're just going to the space game web project and then you see an option that is called fork. So when you select the fork, you have an option called code, and in the code you click on the drop down, you see copy for the HTTPS. I'm just copying this and then go back to your Visual Studio Code and then paste it and enter. So what it says is like there is no such space or file or directory because in this example, what I need to do is I need to use the command git clone. I've just directly copied and pasted and that's the reason it gave me this error. So when I use the git clone, it just cloned the repository which is available as public to my local laptop. I can see that also over here. So the location, if we navigate, I see all the files associated with it. That's perfectly fine. The first job is done. The second one, what you need to do is you need to change the web directory so that you can start setting up the application locally on your laptop. In order to do that, what you need to do is you need to just run the command cd and then navigate to this location because we already have it over here. I'm just doing the same steps. Yes, I have already navigated to this particular location. So now what you need to do is you need to set the upstream remote. Uh, an upstream remote is nothing but, for example, the team members can collaborate. It's more or less similar to a GitHub. The upstream remote will let you to add, pull and push the data to the GitHub. So basically, it will let you to remote and add a remote that points to Microsoft copy. So what you need to do is so basically, upstream remote is nothing but it's a Git repository where the team members can collaborate. It's more or less similar to a repository on a GitHub. So no need to make much confusion. We will see the reality over here. So for example, if I have any upstream on locally on my laptop, I just run the command git remote v. I see there are two things because this upstream is basically present on the repository which we clone locally on our computer from the GitHub. So if you see there's an origin called fetch and then origin called push. So what we see is like the push is something it will make any changes to upload and fetches download something from that location. So this is the option for fetch and push. So now what we need to do is we need to set the upstream to remote. So a remote is a Git repository again where team members can collaborate. So what we see right now is like we see both fetch download and push upload, which is present in your repository. So now what we need to do is we need to create an upstream remote that will point towards the Microsoft. So in order to create an upstream remote that points towards the Microsoft, you just need to run one command, which I will show you. So all these commandlets, whatever I'm trying, is already present in the link of the GitHub. I'll be sharing that on this video link as well. So it's git remote add upstream. So basically, we are just going to add an upstream and hit enter. So it's already done it. So now, in order to see the changes, again you need to run the command git v. I'm just pressing the up arrow, and see you have the origin, upstream one for fetch, and upstream one for push. This is perfectly fine. So we have created a remote upstream that points to Microsoft, and then we have also done a fetch. Um, so now, having set up everything for the GitHub, we are really going to run into the main steps where we will open the project and then run the application locally on your computer. In order to open the project, the easier way is code R, which will open your project right away. Basically, a project is nothing but the code that we copied from the GitHub. So it has opened right now. So the next step, what I need to do is I have to make this project running. So I have to click on the new terminal, so which gives me to open the Git, the bash, and in the command line, I'm just going to do the release. So this is basically .NET. I'm going to do a build and then configuration is release. That's all. So it's saying the MS build version 17.3 for .NET. It is determining the projects to restore. Um, it is restoring something, and then let's see what it's going to do because this is also the first time I'm doing from the laptop. uh, Looks like it's doing something. We have to wait for some more time. Perfect. So now you can see the build is completely successful. There is zero warning, zero errors. So now the next thing what you need to do is you have to run this because you have completed the build. And the next step what you need to do is you need to run the web app. So in order to run the web app, you just need to run a command which is .NET run, and then you need to point it toward the configuration release. So I've just copied this, going to run it. Let's see what's going to happen right now. It's doing something. Let's give it some time. So if you see like the hosting environment is production, that's what is the value which is mentioned on that particular GitHub. So now it says the content root path and now listening on the local host. So if I want to know if it is running uh, on my laptop, so basically I need to copy this and do it. Let's see if it is successful. I'm just going to navigate, open a browser and click on enter. So it says your connection is not private. Yeah, that's possible because maybe there is no a certificate assigned to the service. So you see the space game which is running. So when I scroll down, you see, okay, there are a few examples. Like for example, when I click on duality, I'm able to see everything. So which means there is an application which is running locally on my laptop. So this is the way to verify if the app is running on your local host. So just in case if you see an error in the browser that's related to a privacy or a certificate error, which we saw right now, to stop running the app, what you need to do is first you need to do the control C. Basically, let's try to fix the certificate part. Uh, so what you need to do is run the command .NET dev cert trust. I'm going to run this, and then you see like you'll be prompted for a message to trust the local SSL certificate to see the running app. So I'm just coming clicking on yes. Okay. So now I'm just going to see if that is running, but before that I have to start the app. Okay. Now it's started. Let's try to open it again and see the results. Okay, no, still we see the certificate error. I'm not sure, but this one we'll have a look at it. What is the reason? Because maybe the certificate is not locally installed or it's not pointed to the right MMC store on my Windows laptop. But however, we see an example how to run the a website locally, how to run an app locally from your laptop. So we have in this video, we have seen an app which is running locally on a laptop. You can also try it on your demo. And then the next step, what we will do is in the next video, upcoming video, we'll try how to move this to the Azure pipeline and see what are the options that can best help us to that can best help us to move to the Azure DevOps environment. Hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe more for getting updates on the same. Thank you.